Let's observe silence for some time. Om. So we are on the first chapter of this book. It's called The Human Mechanism, the chapter 1. And last week we covered the first two topics, the three species and the role of the intellect. That was topic number 2. So any doubts from these two topics? Any concept not clear? You want more explanation? I repeat from the first two topics, the three species and power of the mind. Not power of the mind, the role of the intellect. So if you have any questions from these two topics, feel free to clarify now. All right. So if no questions, then let's move on to the third topic, power of the mind. So read the first two paragraphs.
Power of the mind. Adi Shankaracharya, a renowned Indian poet-philosopher, captures the devastating effect of the mind's subjugation to the enchantment of the sense objects. In one of his verses, he describes how a moth is fascinated by the light of a candle. Its eyes are irresistibly drawn by the flame, only to embrace it and be destroyed. In the same verse, he gives the second example to show how a fish, with its weakness for the tongue, gobbles the angler's bait and is killed. The third is a deer's attraction for sound. Its ears follow the drum's beat and is shot down by the hunter. The fourth weakness is that of the skin, which an elephant displays during its mating period. In its craving for sensual enjoyment, it loses its sense of direction, only to be caught in the trapper's pit. The fifth refers to the nose, which is drawn to smell. The poet portrays a bee entering a particular flower whose petals close in and destroy it. The verse thus depicts how the weakness for one sense organ can drive a creature to its own destruction. In effect, the poet deplores the state of a human being whose mind is subjugated to all the five senses. You must start reflecting upon the intricacy of living in this sensual world with such inherent weakness. Ironically, human efforts are directed to render the world unduly attractive, while the young choose to lead a licentious life with the mind freely indulging in the senses. People are totally in the dark, indifferent to the dire consequences of such a licentious way of living. Besides,
So it's a more complete explanation of the concept of the senses, which we, I think, briefly covered last week. That there's a constant push and pull going on between the sense objects and a human being. So sense objects are on one side, so they are pulling you towards them. And the senses, they have a natural tendency to gravitate towards the sense objects. Behind the senses is mind, behind the mind is intellect. So if intellect is weak, then your individuality, your personality gets sucked into the world. And if it is beyond a point, buddhi nashat pranashyati, it can bring about your downfall. So he is explaining with example. It's a very famous reference. Adi Shankaracharya was a very famous saint in India a long time back, lived more than 1,200 years back from Kerala. God's own country. That is how they promote. It's a tourist attraction now, but it was the seat of philosophy once upon a time. So he gives examples from nature. Like deer has a weakness for the sound. So this is how it is caught. And it's very easy to see that happening when you go on a trail. The moment they hear footsteps, they should run away, but they will wait. They're so inquisitive that they wait to see what is happening. I mean, anybody having a gun is a sitting duck, poor thing, you know. So they have that weakness. Fish has a weakness for eating all the time. It is gobbling. So this is how it goes for what is called a bait. The bait, it bites that and it's destroyed. Even the shark, this is how they catch them. Moth has a weakness for the light. Elephant has got a weakness for the skin. What else we left? Bee. Bee has got a weakness for the smell. So this is how it is trapped in the flower, goes deep inside the flower and it is trapped. So what we learn is one weakness is enough to bring about your downfall. Usually people have weakness for one or two, usually. If you analyze your personality carefully, it's not possible that you are victimized by all five senses. There are people who are victimized by everything, but usually you will find you have strong inclination towards one or two. So you have to be careful in the areas of your weakness. See, there's no point boasting, "Oh, I don't drink, I don't smoke," fine. No. But the same person could be completely victimized by the food. So that may bring about his or her downfall. Like one of my uncles, he's a diabetic patient for a long time, maybe last 10, 15 years. So he eats the sweets and then he takes the sugar to bring down his sugar. I mean, what kind of indulgence is that? Has anybody heard something like this? I don't know. And people around him, they, like all surrounded by ignorant people, nothing happens. Two more jalebi, medicine is there. Why are you worrying? That one weakness, but he's a fine man. Otherwise, he's very disciplined. At one weakness. Long time back, 10 years back, when Swamiji he used to visit till 3 years back. Then he stopped. After COVID, he hasn't come back, but he has been coming to New Jersey for a long time. And one gentleman, he used to host Swamiji in a very like famous area of New Jersey, high-end area of New Jersey. So one day we went for a walk. He took us for a walk, Swamiji and maybe 10, 15 of us. And he told us, just watch out how many houses are foreclosing. There's a sign, So something like 10 or 12 houses on the street. So there are, let's say, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 houses, 10 or 12 houses, they couldn't afford to pay their mortgage. So that one weakness, I'm just giving you examples from day-to-day life. So one weakness is enough to bring about your downfall. And that is how it is depicted in Ramayana, Ravana. It's all symbolic. The 10-headed monster, meaning he was victimized by all the sense objects. So that brought about, that weakness brought about his downfall. So that's the example all about. And another point is, see, as it is, you and I have weakness for the sense objects, and sense objects are made more attractive. So it's a double whammy. Where is the chance? You may have weakness for an alcohol, for argument's sake. The way it is packaged, there is no chance. I mean, it's as an art, it should be appreciated. The bottles, blue bottles, pink bottles. I mean, amazing how they make. So as it is, you have a weakness for alcohol, and the way it is packaged, it is made more attractive. Where is the chance? So you have a sweet tooth. As it is, you are struggling. The way they pack Swiss chocolates, Belgium chocolates, absolutely no chance. Casinos are made so attractive. You may have a weakness for gambling, but you go there, it's slow, flashy. I mean, well, if you don't know, you get attracted. Oh my God, am I missing something? Something is happening, and it may bring about your downfall. I mean, before coming to America, I lived in Canada for some time, 5, 6 years. And it was not far from Niagara Falls, 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes drive. So I used to see initially, I mean, buses coming and all the elderly people, they used to wait and they go. And it was written Niagara Falls. So I asked my host, I mean, what, is there a free service to go to Niagara Falls? He said, no, they go to the casino. And many of them, they have filed for bankruptcy. See that weakness. But it's made so attractive. And in that bus, it's a very stylish bus. They serve champagne and all that. They're not doing charity. They know once you go there, what is going to happen to you. So that one weakness can bring about your downfall. See, that's the reason traditionally men and women, they dressed conservatively, isn't it? It's not that woman only dressed conservatively. Man and woman, both they dress conservatively, isn't it? Because as it is, you have a weakness for the opposite sex. And on top of that, he comes with six packs and all that. I mean, where is the chance? But usually the problem is with the man. It's a fact of life. So where is the chance? As it is, a man has a weakness for a woman, and she paints herself and the way they dress up, gone, absolutely gone. And Shakespeare, somebody may say, no, it's old fashioned. I mean, I know what I carefully thought about this example. Should I mention it or not? But I mean, I have to. Even if I'm like, I don't know, somebody rebels, I can't help it. I have to educate. And thanks to Shakespeare, 500 years back, he makes a fascinating statement. In the play, As You Like It, it's a play by Shakespeare, it's called As You Like It. It's like righteousness versus unrighteousness. So two cousins, they are running away from the house. Rosalina and her cousin, I mean, Cynthia or something, whatever her name. So they're going to their father who is in the woods. And Rosalina tells her cousin, beauty provoketh thieves sooner than the gold. What a statement. Beauty provokes thieves sooner than the gold. Oh, what a statement. So they dress like a man and they say, okay, if we dress like a man, we are safe. Nobody will harm us. In a pure world where intellect is developed, doesn't matter. You wear whatever you want to wear. I mean, who cares? But how many people are pure? How many people have powerful intellect? Are you with me? So therefore, it is in your interest. I'm giving the example in this context, nothing to do with a man or a woman. You could get into trouble. So sense objects are made more attractive. As it is, we have a weakness. So where is the chance? So the point which we learn here is one weakness for a sense object, weakness for one sense object could bring about your downfall in life. You could get into trouble. So simple, straightforward. And then he continues.
Besides dealing with the mind's infatuation to the senses, the intellect has also to battle with a variety of emotions which the mind hosts. These emotions, when not controlled and directed properly by a discerning intellect, could turn wild and destroy the person. The common emotions that a human being falls a prey are love, hatred, greed, anger, jealousy, envy, etc. Emotions of the mind run through your person like water in a river, while your intellect acts as its two banks. If the banks of a river are not firm, the water flowing would inundate and devastate the fields on either side. And when the banks are strong, the water flows properly to enrich the fields. So too, when your intellect is strong, the emotions of your mind would be controlled properly to enrich your life. But with a weak intellect, the flood of uncontrolled emotions could devastate your personality.
Perfect.
You could draw a
Yeah,
graph
pause, please. Pause, please.
depicting.
See, now, before we understand what are the main points here, there's a difference between having emotions and becoming emotional. So a lot of people don't understand this. They say, oh, this knowledge makes you callous, it makes you indifferent. No. In fact, you develop best of emotions with this knowledge, this other way around. Your emotions, they become unselfish, they become universal. But if you become emotional, then there is a problem. So having emotion is a virtue. How can you not have emotions towards all beings as a human being? But if you are victimized by your emotions, if you become emotional, then problem starts. And when you become emotional, when your intellect is weak. So he's giving that example like emotions or mind. Emotions belong to the mind. Mind is like a flow of river. And what gives direction to the river is the banks. If banks are weak, the water will flood the plains and there will be a disaster. But if banks are strong, then beautifully they direct the flow of river. If river turns right, if banks turn right, river turns right. If river turns left, banks are supporting that. But if banks are weak, the water will inundate the fields. So similarly, having emotions is a virtue. But if you are emotional, if you become emotional, then the problem starts. I think right now in America, it is very easy to understand. People have become very emotional. You know, there is nothing wrong in supporting a particular party. I mean, why not? But if your party loses, I mean, some people they shared videos with me. People are crying. They are not able to manage their emotions. It's okay. You may support whoever you want to support for whatever reasons. But if you become emotional, then the problem starts. See, then you get into negativities like hatred and anger and all that. Same thing about sports. There is nothing wrong in supporting a particular team. But if you become emotional, then the problem starts. How many times we have heard that there were riots after the game? I think it happened even in Ann Arbor a few years back, isn't it? Or in Lansing somewhere. Or wherever. I mean, we often hear. So definitely you could have emotions for your team. You may support any team. But if you become emotional, then the problem starts. Again, in Othello, beautifully he depicts it, the Shakespeare's play Othello. That the Othello, he was a nice human being, but he could not manage his emotions. He became emotional and there was a disaster. He suspected that his wife, Desdemona, she's not faithful to him. It was not so. She was the most virtuous woman. But somebody tries to poison his mind, Othello's mind, and he cannot govern his emotions. So he ends up killing Desdemona and killing himself. We don't need Shakespeare to tell this to us. How many cases you and I have heard in life, isn't it? Parents and children is a typical example. That was your question last time. Positive emotion. Do you have negative emotions toward Tejo and Hiranmai? I dare not say yes. If you say yes, okay, then I don't know. Then this is an exceptional example of mother having negative emotions towards. But I know how you love your daughters. But if you become emotional, then the problem starts. Are you with me? And again, it is depicted beautifully in Ramayana. Which character, you don't have to know Ramayana. I mean, those who know which character had that weakness. Dasharatha. I mean, he was not an ordinary man. He was a king. He was an emperor. Lord Rama's father. Dasharatha means one who has conquered his senses, 10 senses. So highly pious person. But he had that weakness, emotional weakness for his son Rama. And as a result, he perished. So he perished because of Putra Shoka. It's called as Putra Shoka. Shoka means sorrow. Putra means son. So he perished because of his attachment. He could not manage his emotions for his son, Rama. And perish is not that one fine day you perish. Whole day, your whole life, you are living in hell. It's a hellish life you are living. So when Lord Rama was sent into the forest for 14 years, he could not handle that separation and he perished. It's a very famous example from the scriptures. It's called as Putra Shoka. So your emotions could be positive, your emotions could be negative. You need to manage with powerful intellect. Why? Why are you developing negative emotions to begin with? But you may. So the moment you suspect, the moment you feel that no, I am entertaining negative emotions, use your intellect and nip them in the bud. Otherwise, you could get into trouble like greed. Or like what happened to Othello, like jealousy. Immediately you have to nip them in the bud. And obviously, same thing applies for positive emotions also, which is difficult to understand. So if you ask me, our problem is not negative emotions. Our problem, 90%, 95% people, they are victimized by positive emotions. There's nothing wrong in having emotions for your religion or culture. Why not? But if you become emotional, then you become a religious fanatic, and religious fanatics are destroying the world today, literally speaking. And again, Shakespeare beautifully educates us on how you should manage your emotions in the character of Mark Antony. So there's a play called as Julius Caesar, right? There's a famous Mark Antony's oration. How many of you know that? Mark Antony's oration. Has anybody read that? If you haven't read, you must read Mark Antony's oration. Just Google and find out. It is there in Swamiji's book also, or the Select English Poem, but you don't have to get book just for that. Just pick up any book on Shakespeare and you read that Mark Antony's oration. The kind of situation he faced was extraordinary. It was not easy. And Julius Caesar, his best friend, was assassinated by Brutus. And Brutus and conspirators, they had convinced the whole Rome that Caesar is selfish. So therefore, they had to assassinate him. It was the other way around. Julius Caesar was the most benevolent person. But Mark Antony, he knew. But unfortunately, when they assassinated Julius Caesar, he was not in Rome. When he came back, he saw the tragedy. And he asked Brutus to say few words, when there was a funeral going on. And Brutus, he made a mistake of giving podium to Mark Antony. So he had that emotions. They have killed my friend, and it's not good for the nation. So I have to educate my countrymen. So he had best of emotions, but he did not become emotional. If he had become emotional, he would have collapsed. Are you with me? So you read the Mark Antony's oration, how he changes the mob psychology from anti-Julius Caesar to pro-Julius Caesar in a matter of 10-15 minutes. And even your day-to-day life, the moment you become emotional in any situation, you cannot handle that situation. So therefore, I keep on giving these powerful examples where there is a potential in all of us to become emotional and succumb to that emotion. So that's the reason we often talk about parent-children, but it's the best of emotion. But parents become so emotional that they do not know how to handle their children. This is every other house, this is the story. Parents are screaming, yelling, children are not listening, because how can they listen to you? Will they listen to a madman or a mad woman? It tantamounts to that when you become emotional. So emotions can overpower your personality. This is what we learn here. And he explains it further with the help of the graph.
The fall of the human personality to virtual insanity. When the intellect is weak and the mind overpowers it, the person would initially become emotional. And with further loss of intellect and the mind's domination, he would turn eccentric, next hysterical, and ultimately insane. The intellect, therefore, plays a vital role in human beings. This does not apply to other creatures since they are not provided with an intellect. An interesting observation in the world of beings is an apparent disparity in nature's treatment of humans vis-a-vis all other creatures.
So, very useful graph. Now, when all your actions are backed by your intellect, whatever you do in life, every action, all activities, if they are filtered through the intellect, such a person is called as sane. When there is no intellect involved at all, mind 100% overpowers your personality, such a person is called as insane. So none of us can claim we are sane or insane. If you are insane, then you're beyond all help. If you are sane, then still, then why do you need this knowledge? You already got the knowledge. So as mind overpowers your personality, what happens? You become emotional to begin with. We already discussed that. If intellect degenerates further, you become eccentric. There is no guarantee what that person will do. Eccentric. That's what it means by eccentricity. Next is the person becomes hysterical, and last is insanity. So what is the practical implication of this? That as you start moving towards, let's say, emotional, your mind becomes mentally agitated. So to the extent your mind is mentally agitated, you lose clarity, you lose your productivity, and the quality of your life is affected. See, to do anything, to achieve anything, what you need is a calm mind and clear intellect. So if your mind is agitated, that's what happens with the emotional person. He is victimized by his emotions. So how can he think clearly? How can he or she apply himself in any task of life? It could be at home, it could be at work. So the quality of your life is affected. First of all, you are mentally disturbed, and secondly, it affects your productivity. But when your intellect is available completely, you are in a state of cool efficiency. And that's the way I can describe it. You're absolutely calm, you're absolutely cool, you're composed, and therefore you are efficient. So you have to find out in your interest, where do you belong? Are you emotional? Are you eccentric? Are you hysterical? Find out in your own interest. So if you are already emotional, then it does not take time to slip into eccentricity and hysterical. How long it takes? Once you fall, it's a free fall. And you find in some people that a good portion of their life, they are almost insane. Even for emotional person, it is applicable. When you are disturbed emotionally, how much of intellect is available? When you become emotional, I'm magnifying. When you are crying, when somebody is crying, how much of intellect is available? How much? None, zero. So therefore, you're insane. Yes or no? Yes, I mean, not totally insane. Totally insane, then what is the problem? But a good portion of your life, there are people who are insane. You could be insane. Or you're emotionally disturbed, or you are eccentric, or you are hysterical. You have to understand this, number one. Number two, also it is useful, this analysis is useful to understand how to relate to other people. See, if somebody is emotional, you cannot reason with that person when he's emotional. It's a common mistake. Again, you can make that mistake with your partner or with your children. When somebody is emotional, it means that person's intellect is not available for reason. So you cannot reason with a person who is emotional. And again, beautifully, this is the backdrop of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna had become totally emotional. And Krishna did not say a single word. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita and the first 10 verses of chapter 2, Krishna does not say anything. It's Arjuna who is blabbering. And when Arjuna is recovered, relatively speaking, that is when the sermon starts. So it's a very practical, psychological tool to relate to the world. Even in a workplace, when somebody is emotional, you can't. How can you reason with that person? And if somebody is full of logic and reason, you have to talk the language of logic and reason to that person. You can't make a mistake. Even your own partner could be available for logic and reason. So you need to use that language. So with a person who is intellectual, you cannot talk to him the language of emotions. Somebody who is emotional, you can't talk to him the language of logic and reason. So it's a very useful analysis. First of all, find out where do you belong. And it is in your interest to prevent your downfall. See, I'm repeating, if you have a tendency to be emotional, it does not take time to slip into eccentricity and hysterical. I mean, I'm not describing it. I mean, don't you know what is hysterical behavior? What is hysterical behavior? Anyone, what is hysterical behavior? Somebody may say, no, I don't understand. I will prove it to you to your own satisfaction. What is being hysterical? What is being hysterical?
No, very unreasonable.
No, unreasonable and is all gone.
That was crazy.
Crazy. When you have a fight with your partner, that is hysterical. As simple as that. People throw things at each other, and God knows what all happens. They push each other. It's like absolutely mad. So it is in your own interest to find out. And if you are a leader, any field, a leader has to be a sane person. God be with that organization or community, where leader himself is emotional or eccentric. So find out in your interest where do you belong and prevent that downfall by building your intellect. So are we okay? Any questions from this topic? So it's very simple analysis, but it's very powerful. It's so practical. The whole book, The Holocaust of Attachment, is an extremely practical book. So
The theme in this section is weakness of intellect.
I think you have to speak microphone. People cannot. No, give it to you.
So theme in this topic is weakness of the intellect, and the clarification is that is there any relationship of weakness of the intellect and strength of the mind, inverse relationship, like the weaker the intellect and stronger the mind, and can we, put any numbers on those?
But they are what? Inversely proportionate, correct? Good. If your mind is powerful, your intellect is weak. Or if your intellect is powerful, it has a capacity to deal with your mind. So that's only if intellect is weak, mind overpowers the intellect. If intellect is powerful, how can mind overpower the intellect? So the whole exercise is to make your intellect strong so that it can manage the mind. And when we say manage the mind, meaning feelings and emotions of the mind, desires of the mind, whims and fancies of the mind. Because mind has no direction or dimension. Anybody's mind. It's like a child. It can ask for anything, it can do whatever it feels like doing. So only if you have a powerful intellect, it can supervise the mind. Otherwise, you'll be victimized. And this is what is happening to practically everybody. It's a question of more or less. So you need a powerful intellect. To the extent you have powerful intellect, to that extent, you will not be victimized by your mind. So that's that graph all about. Like 100% victimization is state of insanity, which we understand. It's like permanent, right? But when we say somebody is emotional, let's say 25% of the intellect is lost. Somebody is eccentric, it's just 50-50. 50% of your personality is mind-based, 50% of the personality you can use intellect. Hysterical, hardly any intellect is available. You can say 20-25%. Mind is 70%, 80%. So it's directly linked to the strength of your intellect. Your microphone, please.
So the other question is that looking at the graph, are all of, am I only at one spot, or can I be at different times of the day or the month or the year be insane or eccentric, hysterical? Like given the same mind and same intellect, but different circumstances, can I act hysterical today and emotional, like tomorrow?
No, that will be almost, that is insane person.
Okay.
Absolute insanity. See, if you're emotional, you tend to be emotional. It is a question of more or less.
Okay.
You may slip into eccentricity and being hysterical. You may touch it, but you will not hover around it all the time. If somebody is eccentric, that person is eccentric all the time. That's his personality. hysterical person is hysterical most of the time. So it's not possible that you're emotional and then suddenly one fine day you become hysterical, you become eccentric, then this like schizophrenia, which is nothing but being hysterical, just another name. So you maintain consistency. Yeah, there could be fluctuation when situation goes beyond your control. Emotional person may become hysterical, but that does not mean he is hysterical. It's like typical example, like the fight between husband and wife. One partner has got a tendency to be emotional, and suddenly they are throwing whatever, like apples and oranges at each other. But again, it's not that they are throwing things at each other all day long. I'm magnifying it. That means both are hysterical. Again, things cool down, comes to the level of emotions. Why did you say this to me? Why did you say that to me? You see, but still there is no logic and reason. Anybody has an intellect, he will analyze. Oh, why did we fight unnecessarily? Can we sit down and find out? The same, you apply the same at society level, community level, you know. I mean, you may uphold whatever views in life, let's say political views, but if you lose control, you become emotional. And there are people who always remain like that. You see what I am trying to say? So any facet of life, it is applicable. Sports, therefore, I gave example. So you may be passionate about sport, but you go and you enjoy. If you're a sane person, if the team you support it loses, fine, you will shrug your shoulders and maybe next time. Or your team wins, you're happy. But you don't become emotional. You don't lose your composure. Right? So you maintain whatever is your intellectual status. There is consistency.
Thank you.
So in a way, you were
Yeah,
saying.
microphone. Those who are attending online, are you able to hear the questions?
Mhm. Yes.
Yes, Swamiji.
No, that's okay. I'll leave.
So
So,
why don't you open the court? Can we pass the page? Yeah.
it's a heavy instrument. So in a way, you're saying that mind could be compared to a monkey.
Yeah, it is compared to a monkey.
Okay.
Definitely. Elsewhere, you will find is compared to a monkey because it has two qualities, asthira and chanchala. Chanchala meaning it goes on from place to place. And asthira means within the place it goes on churning thoughts. So that comparison is there. So yes, you're right.
Please elaborate on the comparison, please.
What? Monkey comparison?
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right. See, monkey has got two qualities. It's called as chanchala and asthira. I'll explain to you what I mean. See, if you go to a zoo, the biggest cage is for a monkey, isn't it? They can't remain in one place. So they're hopping from one branch to another all the time. And if when they sit in one place, they are very fidgety. Have you observed that? It's a natural quality of a monkey. So that quality applies to us, to our mind. So mind goes on chasing desires after desires after desires. It is never stable. It is never satisfied. And you give it a focus, one point of fixation, it starts churning again. See, for example, you go on fulfilling various desires. I want this, I want that, and then one place you settle down. Now, there also you want something else. The thoughts keep on churning. You want to see this place, that place. I'm talking about like, you want to, like as a tourist, you go to various places because you have desires. You stay at home, you say, no, enough is enough. Your mind will keep on going to various places. So that is the comparison. It goes from place to place, and within the place, it cannot concentrate. Like meditation is the best example. Those who are doing chapter 6 on Saturday, or even before each class, we observe a period of silence. When you close your eyes for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what happens? I don't need an answer. So it's a monkey quality if it is happening to you. Does that help you? I don't know who asked the question.
It was that, thank you. That helped me.
Yeah. So it's called as Chanchala and Asthira, if you can understand those words, but you don't have to. Chanchala means from place to place. Asthira means within the place it keeps on churning desires. So that's the nature of anybody's mind.
Amiji, Magdala had a question.
Magdalena, yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, where is Megadina? I don't see her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hi.
Hi. So you said if somebody is eccentric or hysteric, I can't talk with them the language of reason.
Right.
So what is your recommendation if you can't escape the situation? There's somebody really coming at you. You don't really have a choice. So I know Swamiji is always making this example, don't clap the hand, right? Like,
Correct.
but like, would you recommend just, staying reasonable, like still reasonable to not create an argument, right? That's what you're saying.
See, at that time, you cannot reason with that person. When somebody is under the heat of emotions, at some stage, that person will cool down. That person can't remain emotional forever. It could be for half an hour. It could be for a few hours. Sometimes it could be for days. So whenever that person calms down, then definitely you can reason with that person, but not at the heat of the moment. So that's the mistake people make. See, when we say somebody is emotional, if you go by the graph, it is not that intellect is zero. Good part of intellect is available, 60-70% intellect is available, but not while he or she is emotional. That time is practically zero. But when things calm down, when person is available for logic and reason, so that's the time you can use reason with him or her. But when you face such a situation in life, you have to just nod and get away from that situation. That is the reason people get into trouble. The typical example is road fights, isn't it? Somebody says something to you, you also say something, and there have been cases where they shot each other, So any sane person, he will walk out of that situation in your own interest. I mean, it could be dangerous. Or you may face same situation at home with your partner, with your children, with your colleagues if you are working. So let them calm down. And for that, you need a powerful intellect. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it. You get it? So that's the problem. The other person becomes emotional, you become more emotional. He becomes hyper emotional, you become super emotional. Then he becomes super emotional, you become, I don't know. It's like, it's crazy. This is what happens. This is what is happening in day-to-day life. But it's a good question. It's a very practical question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Because we got only 5 minutes left. I don't want to start the next topic. So then the thought flow is disturbed. What is the next topic?
Nature protects.
Yeah, nature protects. So we'll take it up next week. So I'll give you 5 minutes. If something is not clear, please clarify.
Vijay, this you said about
Yeah, microphone.
Shakespeare's As You Like It, the example, then beauty provocates thieves sooner than gold.
Yeah.
So in this, the synopsis of that is, if I understand, is that you need to be not to show up, not to attract people, right? So that comparison is the beauty, and the gold in general, thieves go for gold, but they go for beauty if it is more expressive. Is it what it is?
No, see, it is in the context. See, the context was what? If you don't have powerful intellect, you will succumb to the sensual attraction. You could be man, you could be woman. So therefore, traditionally, man or woman dresses conservatively because there's a natural tendency to get attracted towards the opposite gender. It's a natural tendency. Man will get attracted towards a woman. Woman will get attracted towards a man. So as it is, there is attraction. And on top of that, you make yourself more attractive. So you are, you're in a, you could be in a tricky situation, especially if you're a married person. So therefore, I said, is usually people misunderstand that it is applicable only for a woman. No, not necessarily. Even being man also, you could get into trouble, unnecessarily showing off, and you're socializing too much. This is where, people, they make a pass at you and your intellect is not powerful, you succumb. But it is more applicable, definitely, for a woman. I mean, if you're objective, you will understand and you will do whatever you have to do just to protect yourself. Forget about other. How many people they have powerful intellect? Why do you want to put yourself in a situation where the member of other gender, he gets aroused because the way you are dressed? And if you are in a place where you're safe, you're not safe, you could get into trouble. But in a pure world, it doesn't matter. When everybody's intellect is developed, you have that purity. How does it matter? But are we living in such a world? Is a question. This is the logic. Now you can't explain it to anybody. I thought for half an hour, should I give this example? But I said, no, I have to. Even if I don't know what word to use, trolled, nobody's going to troll. No? I say I had to stick out my neck, and that too, that too in a country like America. But thank God it is Shakespeare who said that. If I had quoted, I don't know, Ramanna Mahanuja said that, okay, no, Shakespeare, he said that 500 years back. So it's a very valuable advice to both man and a woman.
Why is that? We take the foreign authors.
Microphone. Sorry.
Why is that? We give the foreign authors way more weightage than our own scholars.
So first of all, what we are studying is.
I'm not talking about Shakespeare,
Right.
Shakespeare, of course, is, Shakespeare falls in a different category.
Right.
But in general, we tend to give more weightage to foreign authors than our own scholars.
What do you mean by foreign authors? Can you explain?
I see quotes from foreign, or English or British or American authors all the time in our script, in our writings.
What is our writing? Or when you say our writing, meaning whose writing?
Well, I talk about this kind of religious, writing, not by one particular author, but religious writings.
Yeah, I get your question. What we are talking about is scriptures. Now, what is Vedanta? Vedanta is eternal truths. Don't misunderstand me. I get your question. Vedanta, the definition of Vedanta is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means eternal truths.
Yes.
The moment we say eternal truths, meaning these are universal truths, these are universal principles, right? They are applicable at all times. They are applicable to all human beings.
Yes.
So any human being who states eternal truth, we are quoting. So where is foreign, where is Indian, where is Chinese, where is Pakistani, where is Russian? There is no such thing. Law of physics we are discussing, right? Now a Chinese may explain that with some examples, laws of physics. An American may explain law of physics in his or her style.
Sure.
A Russian may explain laws of physics as per his or her style. So all these are laws. So what we are discussing here is laws of life, eternal principles of life and living.
True.
Sanatana Dharma, they don't belong to India. They don't belong to China. They belong to the whole human being. So we are quoting whoever has emphasized these laws.
Okay.
You get my point?
Okay.
That's the very definition of Vedanta. Vedanta is a Sanskrit word. The English translation of Vedanta is eternal truths. So eternal truths meaning they are applicable to everybody, to the entire mankind. They are meant for everybody, the whole human being, the whole human race. So Shakespeare talks Vedanta. Therefore, we are quoting. Charles Dickens talks Vedanta. Robert Browning talks Vedanta. Christ talks Vedanta. Prophet Muhammad talks Vedanta. Guru Nanak talks Vedanta, eternal truths. So that's what we are studying here. So we are quoting all thinkers from different parts of the world to show that all of them spoke eternal truths. So where is the question of foreign? Where is the question of you may misunderstand the way I am answering. I am not answering you. I am answering that attitude, not in you. It is a general misconception. The moment I sense that, smell that, I come very heavily. But this is what is causing rift all over the world. My religion, your religion, nobody has a clue of what religion is. The basis of any religion, the foundation of any religion is Vedanta, meaning eternal truths. And nobody understands this. My religion, your religion, all great men, women, they spoke eternal truths. It's the followers who misunderstood and they messed up. So here is an attempt made by Swamiji to educate the whole world that eternal truths, eternal principles are same. There is no distinction. Doesn't matter who spoke. Doesn't matter who says it. You get it, Subhash? Subodh.
Yes. Thank you.
Abhijit, there was a question from Vishnu Priya.
Vishnu Priya, where are you? Yeah, I can see you now. Microphone, please. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. I can't hear you, Vishnu Priya.
Yeah, Hari Om Swamiji. If we are out of time, I can ask next time.
No, we have time.
Okay. I was just trying to understand what we learned today. So are we saying that emotions as such are not bad, but acting irrationally without intellect because of emotions is wrong, but emotions are okay?
How can you not have emotions? It's not okay. You have to have emotions towards all beings. If you become emotional, then there is a problem. Just understand the difference between emotions versus becoming emotional. That's all. And for that, you need a strong intellect. If intellect is weak, you will become emotional. If intellect is powerful, you will have best of the emotions, but you will not be victimized by that emotion. You will act rationally. You will do whatever has to be done intelligently. Yeah. Next question, please.
Manika has a question.
Oh, Monica. Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, thank you. And again, we can cover this next week too, but I'm wondering what are things that we can do to help strengthen the intellect? Like what are the actual practical steps that we can do in addition to studying and meditating? but what do you recommend?
See, study of this knowledge will make your intellect strong eventually. So at least you're aware now that there is something called as intellect. And if you are in touch with this subject regularly, consistently, and if you try to absorb what is being said, see, therefore we are having this question and answer session. So what builds your intellect is questioning. That spirit of inquiry, not questioning in that sense. No, you have that genuine spirit of inquiry. You don't accept anything for granted. You question everything. So that will build your intellect. But the ultimate solution lies in getting this knowledge and understand what is life all about. So that exercise itself gives you clarity, and it will eventually, gradually build your intellect.
Thank you. And is the intellect eternal, or is the intellect that we have individually something that is eternal?
See, when you say eternal, every human being is born with an intellect. No, that is how we are different from other creatures. Other creatures, they don't have intellect. So as a human being, we have intellect. We are born with the intellect, but you have to build it. The growth of the intellect is not automatic. Just because you are educated, that does not mean you have an intellect. You could be well informed. You could be PhD, but your intellect could be very, very poor. You could be victimized by your own mind. But every human being has an intellect by default. So in that sense, you can say it is eternal.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so should we conclude for today? I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Amaji.
Thank you, Amit ji.
Thank you, Amit ji.